All right, very good. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Vincent Rangioni. I'm the Delaware County Register of Wills and Clerk of the Orphans Court. And we're just here today to provide the public with some more information and background about the upcoming Real ID enforcement date. We've seen a tremendous uptick in our office in folks coming to get certified copies of their marriage record. Many people don't know that the Register of Wills office and Clerk of the Orphans Court is where you come to get your marriage license and where you come to get a certified copy of your marriage record. And it's one of the most important documents that you need in order to obtain your Real ID. And so because we've seen this tremendous uptick in traffic, we decided that it would be a good idea to reach out to the community and provide as much information as possible so that they could have a smooth and positive experience. It's important to understand why this Real ID situation is happening. The Real ID was a recommendation that came out of the 9/11 Commission. After 9/11, the commission was formed to figure out how we could improve security and safety, not just at federal facilities, but throughout the society. And so one of the recommendations of the commission was to strengthen the documentation needed in order to get ID that would allow you access to domestic air flights, federal facilities, military bases, nuclear power plants, things of that nature. And so the Real ID Act actually passed in 2005 based on this recommendation from the 9/11 Commission, because it's one of the questions that we get all the time. Why is this happening? Why do we have to do this? And this is the reason. And even though it's been going on since just after 9/11, and again, since the Real ID Act was passed in 2005, the enforcement date is very quickly upon us, May 7th, 2025. And though the date has been pushed back a number of times, the federal and state governments have assured us that this enforcement date will stick. So we want to make sure that people are prepared and have the ability to do these things with their Real ID. Real ID is optional. It's entirely up to each individual resident whether they want to pursue and obtain a Real ID. There are certain things that you will need a Real ID to do after May 7th. And those things are board domestic air flights. I think that's the one that is most relevant for most people. But if you have need or interest to access other federal facilities, particularly military bases or nuclear power plants, you will need a Real ID in order to access those facilities. Again, it's important to remember Real ID is optional. You do not need a Real ID to drive, vote, access hospitals, visit the post office, access federal courts, apply for or receive federal benefits. So if you choose not to pursue a Real ID, you will still be able to do all of those very important things with your regular driver's license and identification. Here you have an example of what a regular driver's license looks like on the right and a Real ID on the left. You'll see, and you'll notice if I were to pull out my driver's license, it would say not for Real ID purposes. The Real ID has that gold star in the upper right-hand corner. And so that's how you know. If you pull out your driver's license and you have the gold star, you've got your Real ID and you're in business. If you have this license that says not for Real ID purposes, you may need to go and get yourself a Real ID. There is a one-time $30 charge for the Real ID. That would be in addition to your regular renewal fee for your license, which currently is $39.50. It is a one-time fee. So once you pay the Real ID fee and obtain your Real ID, when you go to renew your license, you will not have to pay it again. You would simply pay your regular renewal fee. Also, you can get your Real ID now, or you could wait until your license expires. If you do get it now, you will receive an additional 4 years until you need to renew your license. So if you have 2 years until your driver's license expires, and you get a Real ID today, you will have 6 years until you need to renew your Real ID. And once you have a Real ID documents on file with PennDOT, the renewal process will be exactly the same as it is for your regular driver's license. What do I need to get my real ID? You need a combination of documents, and this is part of what's causing people confusion and worry. You need one identity document, most typically either a birth certificate or a valid passport. There are a few other documents, but those are the most common. You need proof of a social security number, most commonly your social security card. There are a few other ways that you can do that. A W-2 or a pay stub that lists your full 9-digit social security number can do that. If you have, most pay stubs now only list the last 4 digits. And so that will not work. You need the full 9 digits of your social security number. The best and safest way is to have your social security card. And then you need proof of residency. So you can do that with your driver's license or a valid ID card, your vehicle registration, proof of insurance, your PICO bill or your water bill, but that's 2 forms of residency. So you need one identity document, one proof of social security, 2 residency documents. And then here's where the Register of Wills and the Clerk of Orphans Court has our main point of entry to this process. You also will need proof of legal name change. So again, because this is a security issue, because it's a recommendation of the 9/11 Commission aimed at making our domestic airline flights and federal facilities more secure, they want to make sure that the person obtaining the real ID really is the person who's being granted the license. And again, in our office, we issue the marriage license and we issue the certified copy of the marriage license that proves the name change. Because if you show up with a birth certificate that doesn't match the name on your driver's license, or a social security card that doesn't match the name on your water bill, the person who's trying to evaluate your documents is going to say, well, Sarah Jones and Sarah Smith are not the same person. I can't verify that you are who you say you are for real ID purposes. And so it's a certified copy of your marriage record that proves your name change. And I'll talk more about this on future slides, but for folks who have changed their name more than once or changed their name and then changed their name back, you actually need an individual legal document that tracks the entire trajectory of that name change. And that's a really important part of the story, because we've had some particularly upset residents who have had to come to our office on more than one occasion because they didn't realize, they thought they just needed their most recent name change. But that's not so. You need to track your name change from your birth certificate through each change to your current name in order to obtain your real ID. Here is a comprehensive list of acceptable identity documents. And again, you just need one of these. As I say, birth certificate, passport or passport card are the most common, but there are certain other identity documents, especially if you are a naturalized citizen, that can help you with your proof of identity. And so that is an important list, and you just need one of those documents. Same thing, we talked about this, social security card, most commonly just your social security card. Something that comes into play for some folks here is middle initials, confirmation names, things that might be different on your social security card or birth certificate than on your current license. You just need to be able to, again, track those changes. And it's very important that if you're using something other than your social security card, that it has the full 9 digits. Believe it or not, I myself got stopped 2 different times on this because I misplaced my social security card during a move, and I used a pay stub that did actually have the 9 digits, but was actually too old. It was 4 or 5 years old. So it needs to be a current pay stub. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can get tripped up. And again, that's part of the reason that we're here today, to try to provide real clarity and information for folks. So again, proof of Pennsylvania residency, here's where you need 2. So not just any one of these, you need your driver's license and your registration card, or your auto insurance card and a tax record, or a driver's license and a W-2, a lease, 2 things that prove your residency here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is our main entry point here. And I wanted to illustrate this because when folks get married, you sign your marriage certificate and your witnesses and your officiant, and it could be a wonderfully sentimental document, and it certainly is proof that you are married. But what it is not is a certified court record that proves your name change. And so that certificate that you have in your firebox or desk drawer or in a frame on your wall is not what you need. You need a certified copy of that record that certifies by the court that your name has legally changed. And you can obtain that in our office all day, every day from 8:30 to 4:30. We provide that same day. So in a number of other counties, there's an upcharge for same day service, or there's a waiting period, but we take great pride in our service here in Delaware County. You can go online and order in advance. You can come in and you'll be processed same day and leave with a certified copy of your marriage record that will allow you to get your real ID. Just again, explaining some of those things in greater detail, it's just important to know complete name change history and certified copy. Those are really the most important takeaways from this part of the presentation. And it's just not something that people think about every day. And you'll see how dramatically this is impacting the public. And so the shorthand way is raised seal. The certified copy has a raised seal. And so if you have a document that doesn't have a raised seal, chances are you need to come see us. Here's an example of a set of documents that will allow you to get a real ID, including a certified copy of your marriage certificate, and just with a notation about how you can do the middle name and middle initial or maiden name as middle name. Again, just tracking from the name on the birth certificate to the current legal name with documentation along the way. Similarly, here is the example where you need 2 certified copies of 2 different name changes, tracking all the way from Jane Ann Doe to Jane Ann Smith to Jane Ann Jones. And so I just wanted to really drive home what it would mean to track that name change. And here is really why we're all here today, because this is a graph that shows how many times our office has been requested to give a certified copy of that marriage record. And you can see that generally speaking, we do about 100 or 150 of these per month up until the last few months, where every month for the last 3 months, the number has doubled to the point where we're doing 450, 500 of these per month. So you can tell that the public is really reacting to this enforcement date, and why I wanted to make sure that we were getting this information out. And this is really a dramatic uptick. Our office is very busy on a regular day. Last year, we did about 20 or 25,000 unique interactions with the public. And so this kind of uptick on just one of the services that we provide is really dramatic. And again, a lot of these folks are upset and confused. They've been to the DMV, and we really want to make it as easy as possible and be as helpful as we can. Ways to apply for Real ID: online, Real ID Center, Driver's License Center. So any one of those 3 places. It is important to know that Some driver's license centers are not Real ID centers, and you will have your Real ID sent to you in the mail, while some of them will issue your Real ID same day. So you do want to check on the facility that you're going to. If it's important that you get your Real ID same day, you want to make sure you're going to a facility that grants Real ID same day. And here are just a few useful resources. Again, this is a federal mandate that's being administered through State Department of Transportation. So PennDOT is a really great resource. You can also go on the federal websites, TSA and DHS. And of course, if you need a new Social Security card like I did, you go to the Social Security Administration's website. And it's a lot easier than I thought it was in the beginning. I could have done it much more quickly than I did, if I'm being honest. Just a little bit about me and our office that I wanted to make sure you had. And I think that really brings us to the conclusion. There are other things about the Real ID that it's important for people to know, but I wanted to really give a broad overview and focus in on the specific services that our office can provide and how we slot into the process.